In 2009, a remarkable phenomenon occurred in the music world. Rage Against the Machine, a rock band, took on the unbelievably huge X Factor / Simon Cowell in a battle for the coveted Christmas #1 spot in the UK charts. It's even been dubbed possibly the greatest chart upset ever. If you are not from the UK, I cannot begin to explain to you the impact this show had on our lives. The cultural impact of this singing competition was like nothing else of its era. I can't give you a comparison, to be honest with you. It ran from 2004 to 2018, but the prime in terms of viewing figures was around 2009 to 2011. And it was 17 weeks of Saturday and Sunday night primetime TV viewing. And in 2009, it was hitting an average of 13.9 million views, which was an average of 46% of the viewing audience. I think it's also important to realise the press coverage was crazy. It was filling the newspapers from page and all. Everyone and their dog was talking about it come Monday. The whole lore around the X Factor UK is wild. It's pure chaos. I definitely could do so many more vids on this. But here's where we run into the issue. The X Factor ran from August to December each year, and it seemed at this point that the winner was basically guaranteed the Christmas #1 spot. And the Christmas #1 spot is a big thing over here in the UK. Not gonna lie, I couldn't give a shit, but anyway. And on top of this, the whole battle of the #1 spot wasn't a new thing either. Cheeky little fact, Bob the Builder actually got to #1 in 2000 over here. All this to say, it currently seemed that the challenge to beat the X Factor winner to #1 was near on impossible. 2009 saw Joe McElderry win with his cover of the Miley Cyrus song The Climb. A whopping 19 million people, which is 53% of the viewing audience, tuned in to see this. The reach and influence it had was mental. That was all until a Facebook group popped up in November 2009 entitled Rage Against the Machine for Christmas #1 with the words, "Fed up of Simon Cowell's latest karaoke act being Christmas #1, me too. So who's up for a mass purchase of the track?" As a protest to the X Factor monotony. The campaign to get Rage Against the #1 was started by a husband and wife, Tracy and John Malta, and over 750,000 people joined this group. John even said at the time, "It's been taken on by thousands in the group as a defiance to Cowell's music machine. Some certainly see it as a direct response to him personally." But still, people didn't actually believe that Rage Against would beat Simon Cowell to the #1 spot. I mean, bear in mind, Killing in the Name only peaked at 25 on the UK singles charts on its release. But Simon was far from amused. He thought the whole thing was stupid and by all accounts was pretty dismissive that there was any competition at all, saying,
"Joe will be #1.
If there's a campaign, and I think the campaign is aimed at me directly, it's stupid. Me having a #1 record at Christmas is not going to change my life particularly. All these music snobs have ganged up against Joe. It feels like a spiteful campaign aimed at an 18-year-old who won a talent competition." So, the moment it all came down to, on December 20th, 2009, it was revealed that Killing in the Name, with 500,000 downloads, had beaten X Factor's Joe McElderry by 50,000 copies. By the way, Queen Susan Boyle was on the 3rd spot.
And that's just one side of me.
But all in all, it was Simon's response that was the most surprising.
Okay.
I accept there are people that don't like the X Factor, and I am genuinely impressed by the campaign they have run. He even offered John and Tracy a job at his record company, which they turned down. But what was this really about? Was it a triumph of rock over pop? Or this year, had the boredom with X Factor grown and Rage's rebellious message was resonating with the British public? Or was it a fuck you because there was a belief that the beloved race for the Christmas #1 had been destroyed by the X Factor? I personally don't think so, because the next year's winner, Matt Cardle, went on to get the #1, and a few others did as well in the following years to that. Zach from Rage said it was an incredible grassroots campaign it says more about the spontaneous action taken by young people throughout the UK to topple this very sterile pop monopoly. People were beginning to feel that Simon Cowell thought he was owed this spot, and I think as well the song choice chosen to oppose this was very clever because it seemed to convey a message and evoke an emotional response to the public. And plus, like Simon said earlier, it didn't really matter to him. He's a millionaire. But perhaps Tom Morello summed it up best. I think people are just fed up of being spoon-fed some overblown sugary ballad that sits on the top of the charts. It's this big machinery that puts forward a particular kind of music, which represents a particular kind of listener. And this Christmas in the UK, they're having their say. I suppose people really did rage against the machine. I also want to mention, alongside the Facebook group, there was a charity Just Giving page. The X Factor also donated some of the profits of their single to charity as well. Let me know your thoughts. Do you remember this happening at the time? Were you there in the midst of it all? And what point do you think it proves, if any? Let me know as well if you enjoyed the X Factor content. It's a certain little interest of mine. Please make sure to drop a like and subscribe, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!